Hello, everyone. So, yeah, welcome to Interactive Sessions, Multimedia, Playback, and Streaming. So before start of the session, I just would like to give a short introduction about myself. I am Ranvijay Kumar, and from the developer relations teams, and acting as a BlackBerry developer evangelist. Apart from the evangelizations, I do consulting jobs for most of the associated partners and their business stuffs, like I'm helping them into the technical stuffs and making sure like they should make their app as per their expectation and their target values. So this is the introduction. Along with me, I have my colleague, Sean. So he will give introduction about himself.
So my name is Sean McVeigh, and I work at the QNX office with BlackBerry. So I'm more involved in the OS side of things. I actually work in the camera department, but the camera team is actually very closely connected with the multimedia team. So I sit next to the lead multimedia designer, and my experience with multimedia is more at the lower level stuff. So I may not be the best guy to answer your Cascades multimedia questions, but if you want to know something about the internals of Renderer, or codecs, or streaming and stuff like that at the native level, you can come talk to me. If I can't answer your questions, then I at least know exactly who to forward your questions to. And in regards to questions, we're going to reserve some time at the end of the session. I'm sure you're all familiar with the format where we'll pass the mic around for questions if anyone has them. So if you have questions, please try and hold on to them till the end, unless it's really burning.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. So, all right. So what might have brought you here? Just by show of hands, how many of you have been already started to developing BB10? Good, awesome. So assuming that everyone is familiar with multimedia streaming stuffs? Okay. Great, awesome. So that's why you are here, awesome. So what we will cover today, let's starting the main session. See, so we are going to take away with the Multimedia API, core API, which is available in BB10, and Cascades Framework APIs, QML-Qt, Multimedia Renderer API C, and there are format streamings which is supported into the BB10 for the now current SDK. And also we will look at digital right management stuffs. And apart from that, we will also take you walk through with some sample code snippets in both technology, like is in Qt as well as QML. So most of the things I will cover through QML and some live demo, so which is an interesting one. So next slide is Multimedia API overview. So what exactly do? So basically, in nutshell, we are covering audio video playbacks, local or remote resources. So nothing like the streaming stuffs. As we know, like as how the streaming stuff depends on the nature of the apps. You may need sometimes to do streamings locally. You may need to do the streamings through remote. So remote is nothing like some services which is available already on the cloud somewhere, from where you can do that stuff. That is the embed video window within user interface. That is also there. So UI controls. So we have a very standard UI controls, buttons, progress sidebars, through which you can play it on. Like suppose you want to make your own control, that also possible, apart from the core API controls which we have. There are metadata, queries, and aesthetics, so these all we will cover later on. Now, audio-video routing. So these are like apart from the core APIs, like some things you want to make it route and make it to get telecast with shaking hands with the other devices. That also possibility we have. So now, core API capabilities. So audio volume control. So through device buttons or APIs. So what we will do over here, like is with through device buttons or API. So now playing area, set artist album name, get next track, previous version text command. So these are some sort of things like which comes and controls by core API capability, which will show you in more interesting way through demo. We have a very short of demos which is available in our device. So later on, we'll walk you through with all the demos. Invoke core media previewer. This is interesting stuff. So this is why it is using. Suppose you don't want to rely on the core media control. You want to, like as your app really doesn't, user doesn't want to, like as something get flash on when he picks the specific media. So he wants to get invoked and bound with the other media control. So that make it possible. So to do that stuff, you need to register as a media previewer. I hope most of them, you went through this picture. But again, I'm going to define whenever we are taking the sessions specifically on native, then we are taking this. So here we have, back to the slides. So see, we have BlackBerry 10 OS into the bottom layer. This is powered by QNX. So I hope you know QNX is very strong. And we have, this is nothing, it's a kernel layer. So where we have a multi-threading, memory management, security stuffs, and just above on top of the lower layer, like we have application framework layer, which is nothing but the combinations of Qt and cascades. So Qt mainly we are using for the writing the applications logic. If suppose somewhere you want to write your own logics, that times you go and rely on the Qt stuffs. It's a wrapper class. But of course, it's a little meshy for the developers. From developer point of view, it's not relevant. Like as they want to make their application more fancy and more attractive. So to get and achieve that all stuff, we are moving to the cascades. So that also. So I'm just cutting down my few of the part of the pictures and take you on the final one. So here it is. So this is like this, look at. So in bottom layer, as I was explaining, like it's powered by QNX. So we have a multi-threading, memory management, security. In terms of media, how you can manage these all things. Like as when you are playing any video, audio clips, so there are some milliseconds time frames are also there. So that all things you could do via this. Multitasking concepts like as multi-threading, sometimes you are on different tasks, and in the middle, some other things get intense. So that all things will get controlled by this. So there are core C-level APIs available into the bottom, which I will discuss later on. What is that? And this is all I explained how it works. So moving to the next slide, the same slides, right? So C API. So on the bottom layer, like as I was explaining, C API level. So it is like as a multiple render API. So just I want to understand, like, how many of you familiar with renderer? Right? So good. So multiple renderer APIs, it is running into the bottom layer, which will help you a lot. Like it's a core API layer. Apart from that, like if you want to do the invoke, bound, invoke, unbound, that all functionalities gets controlled by Air. We do have a BlackBerry platform services into the bottom. So that is having their own functionalities. Event APIs, great for complex multimedia apps. Normally, it is recommended for the game developers, those who wants to make an application with loud sound and all those. So that time it is. Apart from that, we do have some other control components like as a QASA, like as a QNX audio sound architectures. That is also there. So that is normally focused on for the low-level APIs, which is not at all relevant to this session. Now, as a next, the top layer. So we have a combination of C++, QML, which I said earlier. So wrapper class, it's nothing. It's wrapper classes, high-level APIs such as media player, audio player, etc. Easy to integrate with Cascades application. So now multimedia APIs. So these are the main components which is available with the current SDK in BB10. So first one is like this is media player, audio recorders, now playing connections, and notifications, system sounds, and other classes for enum types. So we will walk you through with these all APIs with the demo, like as how it looks and how you can use in your application. There's nothing you need to do anything special for being a developer, it is very relevant to the developers. Simply they have to use as it is and get to way. So look at media players. Of course, to import these all stuffs, you need these things to get it done in your code. So moving to the left. Now, what is the interesting part? Let's see some code. Play, pause functionality using QML cascades and using C++ Qt. So how will you do? Of course, ID, we have an ID available, Momentix ID. So this is a piece of code which I have written. So here is media player API which I have used. Of course, when you are going to use, there may be a multitasking, multimanager which I have covered in my previous slides. So to handle that also, you need a specific identification for each the object. So that I did. Then stores URL. So this I have picked from the local. If you want to pick it from the remote, that's possible also for having controlling the streaming stuffs and others. And on media states. So on media states, that will help you to play around and control on the media stuffs, like as either video or audio, if you want to make it play, continue, or pause. So we have a very interesting demo with this. So Sean will help. Sean, can you please?
I will do that.
Yep.
We're in the bare bones sample here.
Yep. So look at here. When Sean, can you play this?
Mm-hmm. We'll see if we get sound.
Yep. Can you please put sound?
Okay, well, hang on. We'll do it this way.
Okay.
This is the technical way to do it. Right. So this is just showing the play pause API that you saw on the previous slide.
Right.
Okay. This is a piece of sample code.
This is the piece of sample code.
We'll see that stuff on GitHub. The samples, I believe, are still being worked on a little bit, but in the next couple of weeks, those should start showing up on GitHub. There are some multimedia samples already there that were done by a colleague of ours, but they are still on an older SDK build, so he's working on migrating those forward right now.
Yeah. So now this is button controls, like as ID play buttons, text play. So these are the attributes which we have for the specific objects.
This is what we just used in the
right,
demo.
The same one. So when we click on clicked, the media started play. When we click on pause, it will go into the pause mode. And this is a sort of script for Qt code. It is same stuffs, nothing have to be worried more. Now, these are the event handling C++ script. So the sample which we have shown just now, that is the bare bones player. So this will be available because as Sean has mentioned, most of the APIs has updated and we are working on and improving and leveraging that stuffs together and making sure like all things will come in one box and should be available public to the GitHub. Yeah, so now the next component which is very interesting and got added, which myself and Sean would like to talk more about, that is now playing connections QML. So this is quite interesting. So Sean, would you like to go for it?
Yep. If you saw I believe it was Nobex that did a demo in the keynote yesterday, you saw how they had integrated with the Now Playing service. So the Now Playing service is a component on the system that controls those system dialogues that show you the volume level and what track is playing and give you access to the shuttle controls and such. So that's available for your apps to integrate with as well, which will help them stand out and look like they're more of a, built for BlackBerry, so to speak. So to use the Now Playing service, you use the Now Playing connection control in QML. Basically, you do some boilerplate setup stuff, but what you have to do, and I'll show you on the demo here, you acquire a handle to the Now Playing service, and then you can publish the metadata that you want to display on that screen. And you can also receive the key press events. You can see down here on acquired what it's going to do. It's set some started. Yes, so that's going to show that it's playing and so on and so forth. I think showing a demo of this probably will speak volumes more than my talking about some text on the screen. So we'll see we've got a simple button here, and we've acquired a handle to Now Playing. And if I were to hit the volume controls or the play pause button, you can see if I hit the play pause button, I'm getting those events in my app. So that's integration with the hardware buttons. You can see if I bring up the controls, I'm just seeing the regular sort of system dialog. If I click the fancy button, now we're in that fancy mode where we've actually published some metadata, we've published our position in the track, and we've published some graphics to go along with it. So if I hit the volume button now, I get something that looks a bit more interesting, right? And from that screen, you can also hit, say, next track, and once that disappears, you can see the event that we received was the next button. So this is fairly powerful and allows your apps to, like I say, just hook in with the system infrastructure that we already have. So pretty cool stuff.
Also, you can show that, like, you can minimize the screens, and then after,
yeah,
that's
for sure.
Very interesting.
So this thing's running. I can go off, do something else. I hit the volume buttons. You'll see I'm still getting the interface to my running app, right? And I believe if you tap on the icon, it brings you back into your app. So pretty cool stuff.
Same stuff. Yep, questions there.
What happens if you don't know the length of the track? Oh, if it's streaming media? I'm not sure. Well, I think that would be up to you, however you want to display it. Because you're basically, if you see right here, we've got duration and a position defined. So that's going to show you like a percentage how far it's gone through. I believe it's measured in milliseconds. But you're going to have to use your own convention for that. Maybe you just say it's not making any progress at all. I'm not sure. Whatever,
this is the position and durations of that, milliseconds.
Yeah. So we can talk about that later, and I can find out what best practices for that would be.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
So these are the life cycles functions which we are having into the now playing connection control. So on previous, on pause, on play. So everyone does have their special functionality. So obviously, whenever we are talking about the specific components, we have a special standard approach how we can invoke that stuff as per our requirement.
Yep.
So the same questions which you has read.
Yeah, so these are pieces out of that code sample that we just showed. So this is the signals coming in. These are the slots that are catching them in the QML sample. So when I did hit the play button, we got to the on play handler, and so on and so forth, right? So there are a lot more. There's probably about a dozen of them. So.
Okay. Now, so the same stuff written in C++. Like we have a metadata title, artist, album. So which we have shown into the demo. Like as we have a sample track as a title, we have a sample artist as a artist metadata, and sample album. So like as a set icon URL. So this one is like as we have placed into the locally, and then after we have shown through icon how we can control the media to the when we are turning into the fancy mode. Now the next sample demo, which is quite interesting. Hope most of them already played with that. But as I said, like as our SDK has keep improving. So we are keep updating with the latest APIs and trying to make it modify and to bring up all things in one place.
And just to clarify, when we say the latest APIs, we mean the latest APIs as of like October. The guy who owned the sample just hasn't been maintaining it. So you're not going to go home tonight and find that all your code that you had last month is no longer working because some APIs changed in 10.1. Right. We're just talking about a particular lazy development cycle here.
So another samples. So video playback. Create a foreign window control. Attach the windows of the media player. Scale, resize, reposition. Create great performance, smoother. So I know most of you know about it, what is foreign window control and media players, or what exactly it do. So I will show you into the live demo how exactly it looks. But before of that, like this is just a piece of code. I want to walk through with that. Like it's foreign window code, it's similar. If you look at the syntax of the codes and snippets part of the codes, everywhere it is quite similar. So there's nothing you need to do something extra unless you don't have any specific requirements. So just to go to see, these are the famous attributes, few of the attributes which comes under foreign window control APIs, like as video surface, my video surface, update windows, property size, positions, visible. So these all you can make it done and control as per your requirements. Preference, width, height, this also is possible.
And just to clarify, the reason you're using a foreign window control object is because MMRenderer, the low-level component in the OS, is actually rendering to its own video window. So when you invoke MMRenderer to do something, it's going to create a window, and you need to bind that window into a Cascades control. The foreign window control basically is just rendering a hole through the Cascades UI to see that media window that's sitting behind it. And you can move them around and resize them, and it will resize and move around the backing window as well. So I know in camera we use this all the time, but MMRenderer, you can make use of foreign windows as well.
Great. Now, media players. So again, the media player we are using to just browse up the locations from where we are going to pick the specific medias, either audio or video. So from local or remote. So the same stuffs, keep reading. Now, multimedia render APIs. So we are going to talk more about on this.
Did we have a sample for that previous one?
Yes, we have samples. I skipped this.
Okay.
So video player samples.
You want to see this?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just show you. This is a bit more complex video sample. This is the developer has implemented their own UI, so they're not just using the Invoke framework to play or a card to play stuff. They're using MMRenderer here. There's a video player window here, and if I start playing the sample, I'll put it to my mic again so you can trust that it's doing something. So this is a BlackBerry demo video here. But you can see at the bottom he's implemented a little slider control, so you can actually shuttle around the video. And this is just picking up events from Cascades and sending them down to MMRenderer to set the position. Up at the top, we've got, he's implemented a little zoom control, so you can play with the source window size. But just to showcase that you don't have to settle for the UI that we've built. You can kind of do whatever you want. We're good?
Thank you, Sean. Yep. So I'm talking about the MMRenderer overviews. So as we know, like I said, it is a C-level APIs, which is running into the bottom and core API layer. So what exactly it do? It's specifying the set of media to play, issuing playback control commands, retrieving the current playback status, requesting notification when the status changes. This is also it do. So like as this requesting notification when status get change. When we are changing the states from media state get changed from play to pause, that all notification also we can get. Providing dynamic metadata such as positioning in on a track playlist or some media contents. That all are there. So overview. API sets in such an order like as configuration, MMR connect and create context, attach audio and video output, attach media UR, either local or remote, play media, deal with the events. So this is how it works. This is the complete flow to play with the media on MMRenderer. So context setups, start playback, and handle the events. So handling the events is something like as however you developers wants to make as per their wish.
And the sorts of events you'll see are like whether the track was paused, whether it ended, I believe also what position you're at in the track in case you want to update your time counters on your display, etc.
Right.
So yeah. So that's if you're working in C, that would be your BPS event loop. That's just caching MMRenderer events and dealing with them like that. In Cascades, you're of course getting signals instead.
We will show you later on how exactly it get combined with PPS and all those. So this is some sort of code snippets which we have placed here. So it's like as creating the connections, checking whether connection is possible or not, and then after context creating. So most of the stuff I have highlighted in my previous slides, but the same stuff I am going to go. Then video device output ID, and the output ID like as where you want exactly to play the videos and all those, which you want to control through your core level APIs. That is nothing's MMRenderer. Start the playback. So this is fair, like it's clear cut and nothing you have to worry, and you don't have to do anything extra into it when you are. Now, done through the multimedia renderer event API. So event information delivered by the API contains but is not limited to the event type, the context state, a warning streak, and detailed error information. So this is something like it's defined and mentioned specifically and referring to the developer, how exactly they would like to play around of this. So more into this, if you want to go on, then we have a very standard documentations available in developer.blackberry.com under the documentation category that will give you a brief idea about it, how exactly it's supposed to fit for your business. So these are some standard header files which we need to initialize and call when we are doing coding. Like as mmRenderer h, initialize context and start playback, mmRenderer types.h for data handlings, data types, event.h for handling the events, and streaming, of course, dictionary API to define mmRenderer context settings. So ultimately, apart from that, we do have some enum classes that are also there. So that all details you may get into the standard guidelines which we have on developer.blackberry.com. So this is something interesting stuff which I was discussed earlier, share with you, like a C++ Qt with CBPS API. So look at here how, through diagram, you can understand how exactly it looks. So in the bottom layers, as I mentioned, we have this thing, C API supports, like as BPS mmRenderer supports. So how it's like is on just beyond of the up top of the bottom layers, we have a application framework layer. So cascades and Qt. So when UIQML wrapper classes we are defining, then play, pause, stop, seek things is getting invoked, and it is passing directly to the core API layer. Okay, and from core API layer, it to help you to control all these stuffs, that status, positions, errors, and all those things, even notification also. So that all things gets done. So this is how the flow, overall flow looks. It's pretty simple. Nothing you have to do extra into it. If suppose you want to link up with some other stuffs, then probably you have to do as per your own way.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway from this is that the media controls that we've built for Cascades and QML are, they're abstracting all of this extra heavy lifting that you would need to do. You know, you don't need to write BPS event loops. You don't need to do that stuff. You don't need to deal with the mmRenderer API. Qt implements its own event loop, and it translates all the events it receives into signals that you can then interact with your apps, right?
Yes. This, we do have supports of OpenAL in BB10. So it's a cross-platform 3D audio API. Normally, game developers people are using this. Like as I said, some of the game developers would like to make their app with a loud sound effects and some good media stuffs. So that all things gets done by using OpenAL 1.1. So you can get more ideas on this later.
In terms of where you might use OpenAL instead of, say, using the mmRenderer interface, if you're writing a game or some sort of soundboard or keyboard app, mmRenderer has a bit of overhead to get started, right? So it's got to load up decoders and so on and so forth. So if you want something quick and responsive, you want to use some of the lower level APIs, right, where you're feeding PCM samples or whatever. And I know I've answered some questions on this before. Some people say, oh, I had all these MP3s for all my sound effects for my game, but they're lagging a bit or something like that. It may be better to, if you don't have the disk space to ship a ton of uncompressed samples, ship them compressed, decompress them, and then play them decompressed. You know, you can do stuff like that as well. So if you're thinking of performance for gaming or anything like that, right?
Thank you. So streaming protocol format, that is DRM. So how many of you are aware and familiar with DRM concept? Good. So it's digital right management. So it's mainly to help you to control on the content providers. So most of the partners are, so on this, I think Sean will give you more brief and ideas. So before of that, like as I just want to, like as these are the formats which we have support for the current day in BB10.
Yeah. This is now an up-to-date list.
Yeah,
like
this
as
is the
of
updated list.
December. So
Yep.
we're constantly adding new plugins to the mmRenderer and MMF Foundation framework. So you can continue, but like this is now sort of a complete.
Yeah.
Completely. Yes, take photos if you need to.
And also we can recommend like as what would the best you can pick from this list, and most of the like as based on the nature of the apps, like as how exactly you want to make it architect into the bottoms and how you want to execute into the real time. So that also are there.
I actually think AC3 is also in this list now. I'll double check on that, but I believe it's supposed to be in there.
AC3?
Yeah,
I think it's
so.
in
codec.
codecs.
Is it in the codecs? Okay.
Yep.
Anyways,
Yep.
pretty sure that we support AC3 now.
Yeah. Yeah. So a few of the things like as a H2, as you most of them you are familiar with this H.263, H.264, MPEG-2, MPEG-4, and XBID. So we will let you know like which one is the best. So later on, like just next to this slide. Yeah. So we are recommending these formats like as for local, of course, MP4, and for video components, and the codec would be H.264. For remote streaming, any supported audio and AAC. Apart from that, all are mentioned into the list. So that is the updated one, which is, as Sean has mentioned, like as before December we have to. BlackBerry 10 will support all the formats that Playbook supports and more. Yeah, so streaming protocols. So these are the streamings we are supporting as of now in BB10, like as HTTP, HTTPS, progressive download, RTMPE. So anyone can say like as what is this? What streaming is to? It is only for flash supports. So when we are having flash supports, so that time we are referring this to it. So this is newly added for BB10. And RTSP also there. We do have a HTTP live streaming HLS version 3. So this is the latest list to handle and control the streaming stuffs of media. HTTP live. So some of the like as a brief intro definitions about the specific streaming, like as HTTP live streaming. What exactly do support? What exactly it do and how it works? So supports live data, unbounded multimedia streams. We have a demos for that, so we will show you how it exactly. Of course, pre-coded content too. Client intelligently switches streams, bit rates, based on bandwidth, allows encryption of media over HTTPS. So this is something that most of the media companies are looking on. Like as they want to encrypt their data. They really don't want to share with someone else like as it is. So that types of, so these all somehow you can look at from your level. It comes under the DRM concept. So that we will cover later on. Now, exactly what I was saying, the same stuff I came. So digital right management, mainly related with content providers and studios. The HLS with 128, third-party DRM providers, Microsoft Play Ready, Adobe Flash Access, Fax Web only. Shashawn, would you like to take it?
Oh, sure. Regarding the DRM stuff, I don't think you're going to be able to easily bring in your own DRM solutions unless you're working closely with the people who provide those formats, because I don't think they'll give you the keys to their algorithms and such. But we are still working with additional partners. We're bringing more DRM formats to the platform, right? So to support the video store and so on and so forth. But this is where the platform's only being released for like a week now. So we're making progress, and there will be more.
You're right. Thanks. So the same stuffs, like as in brief, what exactly do, how it acts, and on top of the DRM, like as a HLS Win 128 years. So on our platform, it is impossible for one app to gain access to the protected content buffers of another. So internally, it is safe. Externally, clear text EES keys are being transmitted in M3 files. So if your app can protect the EES keys, then you can use this approach. So the same stuff, like as Sean has explained. So we are trying to improve it up, and through engagement and others. Third-party DRM providers. So this is something like as BlackBerry has active engagement with some third-party DRM providers for supporting BlackBerry 10 for product launch. And we do have like as link content providers, few of the companies. So that all things, probably Sean will give you more ideas about it.
No, I think this slide just covers what I said a couple
Right.
minutes ago, yes.
Right. So the same stuffs. I'm just skipping this all. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is
Yep.
what I might talk about. I know there have been questions about what do I do, how do I stream video. I know some people in the audience that have asked this question before. How do I stream video in a format that you don't support currently? I have my content on a remote server. Maybe it's using different wrapper headers or something. The answer is you can't using the tools we've provided, but you can if you're creative, right? So one creative approach to doing this is to unwrap your media as it arrives and then reserve it up locally in a streaming format that we support. So that's one approach you can do. You can, implement a lightweight HTTP server to do HTTP live streaming, and you're just proxying between your systems, right? Another approach that may work for you, you're going to be trailblazing if you try this, but when you provide input file URLs into the renderer or the media player controls, you can try using a Unix pipe to send data in, right? So if you've unwrapped all your data, we should be able to open a pipe and read it as if it was a file on the file system. The only gotcha I'm going to point out here is that nobody really tests this internally. So this is something that I've been told might work for you. In theory, I don't see what's wrong with it, but certainly make sure they test it before they do this. The caveats there are more along the error handling cases, right? So if your FIFO runs out of data, we have some error paths which may get angry, right? That they're not expecting files to just prematurely end, and so on and so forth. So if you want to play around with that, I certainly encourage you to try, because I'm sure other people would like to hear from your experience if you do go that route. So that's the two approaches I'm going to suggest. The recommended approach would be to serve it up in a supported format, and the sort of bleeding edge approach would be try and do something else. In the future, we're going to be providing some more APIs to allow you to have access to the multimedia plugin framework. Right now in our system, there's this thing called MMF, which is the multimedia framework, which is a big, complicated piece of code that changes on a weekly basis. So it's not very friendly for developers. The only people we typically work with on that at QNX are very close partners that are building systems, right? And then on top of that is Renderer. Renderer was designed to be a very simple to use system that people can use to I just want to play this file, and I don't want to deal with all the other stuff. But at the lower level, there is a ton of plugins and frameworks and stuff, and we'd like to get that opened up in the future. How exactly that's going to look, I'm not sure. If you're familiar with OpenMax, it might look a bit like that. So we're definitely going in that direction. It's on our roadmap now. So stay tuned, and we'll let you know where that winds up.
So few of the integration capabilities, like as with media controls. So media previewer. So just as I said, if you want developer should not want to get control and invoke their media by the specific application. So if something is making blocks, so it will get invoked by unbound application as well. So that all we can achieve. So we have a demo for that.
Cool. Good.
So this is what.
Okay,
so
this is the bare bones player again?
Yep.
Cool. We'll get back to that. So there's two ways to, you could probably find this out from the invocation framework sessions, but in case you haven't heard any of this before, there's two ways to invoke things in the system. There's a bounded invocation, which means you say, this is the app I want you to play this media with, or open this URL with, or whatever. The unbounded interface to the invocation framework, you basically just provide the MIME type, and the system decides what do I have that can play that, right? So we've got at the bottom, we've got a couple of ways to do this. So the first one you want to see is app mode. Okay. So this one down here, all this one at the bottom, this invoke app mode player, that's just launching the system media player, okay? And you can see that it actually launched as a separate app. The other way to do this We've got invoke card previewer right above that. So this, I believe, is the bounded approach. So we actually said use the system video player card and play the media, and you'll see that comes in as a card over my app, right? So you can see that I'm still in just one app, and I can back out of that. And then, of course, the other method of doing this is to you just give it a URL to the file, and the system decides what to play, and you can probably guess what this is going to look like. Pretty much the same as the other one, right? But if you have installed your own media player in the system, and you've registered in your bar descriptor that you're capable of dealing with these types of media files, there's no reason that somebody can't invoke your player, right? So pretty interesting.
In this demo, like as a one pointer, like as I missed, like as a, we do have gesture supports, like as a, some of the media players when you are playing on, instead of pressing the back buttons, you simply through gestures just swipe up right, the media will be on that state. You don't have to do anything extra with that. So that all things we have.
Here you are. Here's how bound and unbound invocations look.
This is the sample of code, like this, which we were discussing. So card request set target. So this is very important. So which I was talking about C-level APIs, where we need to register for the previewer. And this, unless you won't define these things, it won't work. So this is important. Yep. And this is locally, I have kept one file, invoke managers. So for setting the app mode, specifically use sysmedia_player.previewer.app, so which we have shown through the demo. And these are all the places where you can leverage these multimedia APIs and controls on such kind of applications. So I know most of the people, and nowadays it's a modern generation has a great demands to make a kind of application which is very familiar and invoked with the social networking. So we are suggesting, and like as a few of the apps which we have, where we can probably leverage these APIs. So share links, playlist, artist albums with others, BBM, Twitter, Facebooks. To be honest, you don't have to do anything. So when you want to invoke few of the features and APIs direct to this social networking site, with just a few lines of codes you can write, and it will do automatically for you. You don't have to, unless you don't have any specific requirement to make things something extra as for your competitor. We do have a notification and universal inbox, calendar events, universal search are also there. And leverage other devices. So these are the sort of the devices which we have. So I know these all are familiar with you, like as SDMs, that's what we are doing here. Now DLNA. So DLNA, anyone familiar about the DLNA protocol? Yes, great. So mainly it is useful and best for the concept called smart home. Like as we have a smart home appliances where we want to control through our application. So during that time, the DLNA protocol will play a big role. So how media will play their role? Like as something like as you want to make a kind of applications and that you want to control the entire home appliances through your app, and your mobile should act like as a remote control. So you can get this thing done via DLNA protocol. So this is very interesting stuff. I personally like that much, very much.
So how many people are familiar with DLNA and what DLNA is all about? Okay, a few of you. So DLNA is a standards body that has defined a bunch of protocols for how multimedia devices interact, right? So I bought a new TV last year. It will play media off of DLNA capable devices. So if I have my BlackBerry 10 device on the home network, it may show up as a media source, so I can browse through the media in my device. And it's a fairly lightweight protocol that just wraps things and then provides HTTP streaming or other interfaces to get files. There's a player API for DLNA. There is a media server. There is a media controller as well, like Ron Vijay pointed out. So I'm surprised sometimes that people aren't really pushing this kind of stuff, like in launches and keynotes and stuff. I love the fact that you can take these devices, and when we've put an HDMI port on them, there aren't too many other devices that will do 1080p HDMI out of the box. like I have a Playbook at home. I just plug it into the TV, and there you go, 1080p media center, right? So lots of opportunities for people to write, you know, media server apps and so on and so forth, right? I'd love to see some people port some existing things like XBMC or MythTV or any of these things. That'd be pretty cool if we could get some of that going.
Of course.
And of course, you can. I know on the Playbook, at least with the bridge, you can use your BlackBerry phone as a remote control for it, right? Which is pretty cool. So you just leave your device plugged into the TV and then remote control your way around it. Pretty neat.
Yep. So this is just a suggestion. Oh, here is the question.
DLNA, so I would have to check on that. I think it's kind of like a fire and forget sort of thing. I know there's I think there's a DLNA service on the device that does all this stuff in the background. In terms of how you interact with it, I'm not too sure yet. I can talk to those guys though. I'll talk to you after, John.
We'll get back to you.
Sorry, the question for the recording was, are there APIs to access DLNA?
Okay. So this is just a suggestion. Like, don't forget about the UX. So we have a standard user guidelines available on developer.blackberry.com. So just have a walkthrough. Obviously, when you want to work on and make the you give the application or controller as your own way. So that possibility is also there. But for quick reference, you just look at this. So there are some sort of approach which I have picked for this session. Like, as will give you a hands-on and idea how exactly it looks in BB10. So navigation pane, overflow menu, context menu, pick, swipe gestures, many more. So this is how it looks. Navigation panes, that's like navigation. So this is back buttons, which will help you to switch from previous to first screen and first to next screen. Then after your overflow menus, so that is also there. Then context menus, this is, and pick, swipe gesture. So swipe part, like as you just look at over here, how it exactly it looks on. So this is, apart from that, we do have many more things. So probably we would recommend like just have a look that before into the real development. So that will give you complete ideas what exactly you're supposed to make on in BB10. That's it.
All right, thanks everyone. I know sometimes it's easier to learn through samples, so I'm going to look at our sample catalog and see where we might be lacking anything. We also have these community sample repositories on GitHub, so if anybody's playing around with any sort of neat new approaches to do things, or has just stumbled through a how to do something simple, those kind of code samples are useful to everyone else, so please remember to commit your samples to GitHub.
I missed the, so you define your and paste the URL, that is blackberry.github.com. There you will get lots of samples available for different approaches.
Okay, if there's any questions then, we have a microphone that will come to you and you may ask your questions.
I probably missed that on the codecs. Does apps have access to the encode and decode of the native hardware codecs?
Okay, so the question is, do we have access directly to the encoders and decoders? I think that's where you're going with that. Now the answer is on the, I'll address the decode side first. So you might have some just binary stream coming in and you want to shove it through a decoder and have it play. That we don't support today. That's part of that lower level multimedia framework that is very complicated and changing all the time. It's been abstracted as MMRenderer, right? So that's about the lowest level API you'll have access to is MMRenderer, right? So if you were here when I mentioned earlier that you could try feeding data into MMRenderer via a FIFO or some streaming protocol, that's how I would recommend accessing decoders right now. I think most of our audio decoders are, I think some of them are software implementations, so there's really no major advantage to using those. Bringing your own decoders in software, perfectly viable solution. In terms of encoders, there's really no access to the video encoders for the same reason that that framework is very complicated. And we're working on, like it's one of our next things on our list is to provide a more friendly, extensible interface to that lower level, somewhere between MMRenderer and this complicated MMF framework. That being said, the camera has access to the encoder, so you might want to look around through the camera APIs. I've exposed an interface into that encoder there, but then you have to bring the camera baggage along with you if you want to use it there. Okay?
Yes.
There has been a recent security issue with UPnP. Is that already fixed in BlackBerry, or?
There are issues with UPnP. I haven't seen them. If you want to point me towards them, you can let me know offline.
Well, it was pretty big in the press, and you can access it via the internet and basically log on over the internet.
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar then with.
So mostly routers are what is the main concern currently, but it would be interesting if your device is also vulnerable to it.
Okay, okay, yeah. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you on that, but I can certainly talk to the people who are responsible for it. So if you want to give me your email address or something afterwards, we can hook you up with the answers for that. Yeah. At the back.
Do you support internet Winamp streams?
Internet, which streams? Sorry?
Winamp streams for...
Winamp streams.
Yes.
Winamp streams. I don't know. Like the last time I looked at Winamp was a while ago, and it was pretty much just using M3U stuff, right? So, so you're talking about Winamp acting as a streaming server? And
yes,
then playing
for
them
radio.
on a slave device. Okay. Do you know what protocol it uses?
It uses HTTP, I think, and it's basically MPEG-4 stream with some extra headers for stream title.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Again, I can easily talk to the streaming guys later today and find out. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, if that's it, then thanks for coming.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Yep.